Thank you very much. Street benches are lovely things, aren't they? They invite you in, and they're for everyone. I'd like to invite you all to close your eyes for the next couple of seconds and think of your loveliest bench experience. It's time to relax. It's time to think about the world around you, looking at people, engaging with people, perhaps eating your lunchbox, or looking up in the trees, or even take a nap. You're allowed to open your eyes again now. I didn't mean you should take it seriously with a nap. Let's look at some other places in the city, urban spaces. Take this one, for example. Beautiful grass, lush and green, inviting. But invariably, one of these things comes up into our heads. And it sends some warnings about what is urban space, and perhaps it's not as public as we actually think it is. Some time ago, I was in London with my family, and I wanted to look into an atrium of a multinational company. Poor children of architects' parents. We walked up towards this atrium, this beautiful glass facade, and a security guy came running out towards us, and no uncertain terms said, "We're not allowed to be here because this is private space. It's not public." But I was trying to discuss this with him as an architect would, but we were actually forced to move back away from this building. So I was incensed, and in indignation, I started hopping back and forth between the private space and the public space. Private, public, taunting the security guy. And my family, they were very embarrassed. That's what I mean, poor children of architects' parents. Another space is one of these. It's a bush shelter, but it's more than that. It's actually a space where people meet before they move on. It's a meeting place. It can also double up as a living room or a dining room, and of course a bedroom for some people. This is a multifunctional space within the urban realm. It's a place for everyone, actually. And this could also be said of these steps. We see them around the city. And this is a place in the sun. Some people like to dwell in the urban realm because they feel most comfortable there. It's a very important place for them. There's a strong sense of community for certain people. Do you get my drift? I make it my business, actually, to take an interest in how different types of people use the urban realm. It's really important for me. And there are certain groups who I like to call city people, who are out there daily, on a daily basis, in that urban space. I'm the city architect in Aarhus, and it's very important to me to see how they're getting on in the urban realm. I spend a lot of time wandering around. On one such occasion, I was walking along a street in the rain, and I looked into a passageway quite incidentally and noticed a mound of clothing. And I thought, what the hell's happened here? So I ran in very quickly, and it was a mound of clothing, and it was a person. I'm sure he was dead. So I rang an ambulance and a police, and they came, and luckily he was alive. And I still see this person wandering around the city. But it's made me really think, it's had a big impression upon me as to how the city people live within the city spaces and the urban realm we have. One of the cornerstones of Aarhus's policy is that we're making a good city for everyone. A lot of cities have this ambition, but are we walking the talk? Are we making these spaces for everyone? This is not just my city. Many cities are facing similar challenges. It's actually a global phenomenon. At the last count in 2015, there's over 100 million people, city people, in the world. And 75 million are moving from the countryside to cities every year. So there's a lot of people going to get left behind somehow. So this issue is not going to disappear. So what do we do? What can we do to improve the situation? Well, I'd like to start by saying how not to do it. That's another way. Take this, for example. How many times do I have to say to you, we don't want you here? I mean, pyramidal concrete and this metal bar. And similarly, this one, I think this one's in Rotterdam. I mean, we actually don't want you to stay here very long because it's quite uncomfortable. This one's probably the best. I think it's a place in France where they actually caged a bench. We don't want you here tonight. It was actually put up on a Christmas Eve. Very friendly. So how does Aarhus, we would like to work with things in a different way. I wouldn't say rethink, but it's something we've been working with for some time. Some years back, we did during an Aarhus Festival Week for 10 days, we made shelters for city people. We've dotted them around the city, 3 of them. One of these was positioned on the main street in Aarhus, where people could make a cup of coffee and sell their local newspaper to make money for their existence. A second one was positioned in the Town Hall Park, where it became a stage for city people to make concerts for the general public. And it worked incredibly well. And they have since been moved around different positions in the city. And one group of Greenlanders especially used this one down, and it's become their place. It's their locality. And the design of it is so beautiful, I think. Designed by the same architects as this building, actually. And it's become an iconic reference for this group of people. We have another one most recently, just made this last week. It's called the Back Garden. It's designed by the Greenland community. It's actually made by them too. Icebergs and all. Can you see that? There's a place where they can actually make food, and there's a small refrigerator and toilets and things. But the important point is that they've actually participated in the design and making of it. So it actually becomes theirs. Perhaps a shelter's too big for your city in terms of the urban realm and things like this. But perhaps you could actually look at working with the bench itself. I found this example in Vancouver. A very simple idea. What a beautiful gesture. A generous one. And it's not just for city people, but it's also for everyone. And I think it reigns just as much in Vancouver as it does in Aarhus. So let's be inspired to do something with that. We work with benches also in Aarhus, and I think one of the most beautiful we've made recently, which I think is very inclusive, is this design by Doc One, our new library. It's designed, it could cater for, it's a lounge, sofa type of sitting area, but also it's made for many different uses. You can sit on both sides and have conversations, as these people show here. So there's a lot of possibilities here. I work in this building, designed by Anna Jacobsen, and in our backyard, we have this beautiful piece of art, the same for everyone. And it reminds me all the time about the stewardship of our urban realm and the way people use spaces in the city. It doesn't matter where I'm going, traveling, I just live and breathe this. It's important for me. And I think it's also important for us all, some kind of empathy around the way we use the urban realm. This is one of my interesting examples, I think. It's a bus stop which has been converted to a multifunctional living room. When I saw this image, I thought, I'm going to start doing urban guerrillaism in the city. I'm going to convert bus stops to living rooms or bedrooms or dining rooms, kind of instant art. But the important thing here, I think, is city people are also human beings. And it makes me think, what more could your bench be? Thank you very much.